In Search of Wonder. Today, as I am recording this, I wrapped up the first day of school for the school year. So, I am one tired mama. That's all I got to say. Sitting here with my leftover coffee from work. Although, I love this coffee mug that my husband got me last year for Christmas. Appropriate for a music teacher, right? So, anyway, on one of my videos, someone commented, Heather, she commented that I should do a newbie tag. And I had no idea what a newbie tag was, so I had to do a little research. And I went and I watched Heather's newbie tag video, among some others that I found. And I really enjoyed watching that. I love her accent, and I loved her creative twist, very creative approach to her vlogs. And she has a recent one about classics and what makes a classic that was very interesting. And again, she has a really fresh take and approach on it, so that was fun. I will link to her account in the description below. But thanks to her, she had all of the questions all nicely typed out and everything. So now I know what the newbie tag is and what the questions are. So I'm going to answer the newbie tag questions today. Here we go, so you can get to know me a little bit better. Number one is, why did you start this channel? And I guess because I love books and I love to talk about books. And this seems like the easiest way to do that, so I do not bore all of my friends and relations with my incessant talking about books. This way I can just imagine that I'm talking to you, and you can watch it if you want to watch it, and if you don't want to watch it, then you won't watch it, and everybody's happy. It's a win-win. So that's why I started the YouTube channel. Secondly, what are some fun and unique things that you bring to BookTube? I don't really know, except that, I am my own unique blend of what I like to read and how I go about reading. I think every booktuber that I have followed so far has their own personal blend of genres that they like to read and the books that they challenge themselves with and how they read the books, like if they just read for pleasure or if they read more analytically. I've followed all kinds of booktubers and all sorts of approaches. And the thing is that nobody out there, I haven't found anybody who is exactly like me, who likes the same genres that I like, who approaches reading in the same way that I do. So I think each of us just brings our own unique voice to the conversation, and I learn from those other people. I learn about new books. I learn about ways that I can be reading better in one way or the other. I learn about ways to organize my reading life, that kind of thing. So I don't know, I think just each one of us brings something unique just by who we are. As for the uniqueness of my channel and everything in it, that's still kind of like a work in progress, but I like being creative, and I like seeing what different unique ways I can do things. One thing that I want to do, if I can get some people on board, like my family and some other people that I have in mind, to do videos with me. So it's not just me talking, but you can get some other perspectives and thoughts. And I'm not talking about other booktubers necessarily, although, of course that's fun, but just people in my personal life and having bookish conversations with them on YouTube. I don't know, some things that I am thinking about. And let's see, what are you most excited about for this new channel? So, do you see my crinkle paper? This paper with my notes for the newbie tag. I'm just being real here, guys. Okay, first I made a video and I thought it was done, and this paper went in the trash. And then I had technical issues. So that video is no more. So this paper came back out of the trash because I didn't want to write it all over again. And then I made another video and stuffed this in my purse. Yeah, that one, I'm just going to tell you so that you understand what you are working with here. I didn't have the microphone turned on. Yeah, I didn't have the microphone turned on. So, yeah, that video went in the trash, and this came back out of my purse again. And here we are, guys. Here we are. Third time's a charm, right? Yeah. Where was I? Yeah, on my crinkly paper. What are you most excited about for this new channel? Well, I'm excited to learn how to do it right the first time so that I don't have like multiple deletes and crumpled papers that I'm dealing with. I'm very excited about that. But no, seriously. Sorry about the little derailment there. But I am excited about meeting new people who love books that I love, making new friends, reading new books, talking about books, getting creative. I love being creative in a variety of ways, and I look forward to that. So, and number 4, why do you love reading? I love the living vicariously aspect of it, which I think is one reason why I love historical fiction, especially because I can read a contemporary book set around the world, and I have the ability, the potential, let's say, to visit that place in the world, right? And to experience some things maybe that are written about in the book. But things are in the past. I cannot access those things other than through reading about what other people have said about them. So I like to read books for that reason. I like to read historical fiction, especially to experience in the most in-depth way that it's possible for me in this present time to visit the past and experience it. But that is true of everything that I read. I read so I can experience the life of someone who is very different from mine, whether it's because they're a different culture or a different way of life or different circumstances, whatever, just to experience more. And I read because it's fun. I've enjoyed reading since I was very little. I remember reading Beverly Cleary and laughing out loud and just having the best time when I was little. So it's just fun, right? Trying to read my writing here on this crinkly paper. What book or series got you into reading? So for the answer to this question, guys, we're going to have to go way back, a few decades, back to the 80s. It's a long time ago. Back then, I loved to read. I was a little girl. And in particular, 2 series that I remember reading by myself are the Richard Scarry books. You know, those ones that have all the little pictures of the little animals, and then like all the little detailed pictures of the little town they live in and little cars they drive in and the silly little things that they do and all the funny comments and all of that. Richard Scarry, I loved poring over every inch of those pictures, reading all of the words. I loved all of those. So yeah, Richard Scarry. And another series that I remember reading to myself when I was younger, and then I also remember reading to my younger brothers and sisters, is Berenstain Bears. So those were the series that got me hooked on reading. So thank you, Berenstain Bears and Richard Scarry. Great stuff there that I still remember quite fondly some years later. Next, what question would you ask your favorite booktubers? I don't really have an answer to this because I think they answer my questions. Maybe I'm just terribly lacking in curiosity, but I feel like they answer the questions that I really want to know. Like, what books do you like? What do you like about them? What books do you not like? Why don't you like them? Where do you get your books? How do you organize your books? What books are you going to read this month? What books did you read last month? What books did you start and you didn't finish, and why didn't you finish them? These are the answers, the questions that I have, and the answers that are readily provided to me on a regular basis by booktubers around the world. So, yeah, I don't have any questions usually. I don't think. So, yeah, that's it. Thanks for answering my questions, everybody. Good job. Next, what challenges do you think starting a BookTube channel will be the hardest to overcome? Well, I'm kind of just doing it for fun right now. So, I know, like, there's a whole process of, like building a following and all that kind of stuff, which I want just because I want to be communicating with people and not really just talking to myself. But I'm not, I have a full-time job and a full-time life otherwise, so I can't be making a whole career or anything out of it. So it's not like I want to be, famous YouTuber or anything. Those aren't goals I have. So those aren't challenges that I personally have that other starting out booktubers might have. For me, probably the biggest challenge is finding the time to be consistent with it, especially when I have technical difficulties that I have to overcome, which, knowing me, will be a consistent problem. But anyways, yeah, I think that's the biggest thing for me, will be finding the time to keep up with it, to keep up with my booktubing and the other booktubers' videos, and also reading books. So, yeah, that will be time consuming. Let's see. When did you start reading? So now we have to go even further back to answer this question. When I was growing up, a little girl, I guess, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years old, every time we drove to the library, I would be either reading or looking out the window and thinking, this is not the way to the library. This is not the way that I remember. Because in my mind, what I was remembering was my oldest sister taking me and my other siblings for a walk to the library. And what I pictured in my mind, I was not seeing the slightly older me, I was not seeing on the way to the library. I was like, this is not the way to the library. So one day I finally asked one of my sisters, I was like, every time I go to the library, and it doesn't matter which way we take to the library, it doesn't look like the way we used to go to the library. We used to walk to the library. Did we ever live close enough to the library to walk to the library? And my sister was like, wow, you are remembering the library in the house we lived in before, which was when I was 2 years old, because I remember celebrating my 3rd birthday in the house that I basically grew up in until I was 15 years old. So I was remembering that house from when I was 2. Well, not the house. I remember the blue carpet in that house. But mostly I remember walking to the library. That's my main memory from that time. Now, ask me what I had for dinner yesterday. I don't know. What song did I sing in church on Sunday? I don't know. And I planned the songs we sing in church on Sunday. Ask me the last book I read and give me a second and I'll probably be able to come up with it. But otherwise, my memory is non-existent. But I remember walking to the library when I was 2. It's definitely a highlight of my 2-year-old life. Apparently. Who knew? Anyway, so, yeah. I started reading very early, apparently. Well, okay. Obviously, I was not reading at the age of 2. However, I will say, my mom did teach me how to read before I actually went to kindergarten. So by the time I went to kindergarten, I could read to a certain extent, really easy kindergarten-y kind of books. But I'm sure, I don't remember, exact timeline, but I know very early on I was reading, picture books and chapter books and really loving reading. And most of my siblings are the same way. We all just really love to read. So, started at a very young age. Next question. When? No, not when. Not when. Where? Where do you read? Which, I feel like if I were to watch all of the Newbie Book Tag videos on YouTube, if I had the time to do that, they would all answer the same question the same way. Where do I read? Like, everywhere? Doesn't everybody? Like, what kind of question is that? I think it's probably easier to say where I don't read. I'll tell you where I don't read. I don't read in the shower. If I take a bath, I read. But if I'm taking a shower, no. I don't read in the shower. I don't read in church. Not during the service, anyway. I don't read at other, ceremonies or functions like weddings, graduations, funerals. I don't read there. Piano recitals, even though sorely tempted. I don't read at parties. Because as introverted as I am, I do know that is rude, so I don't do it, no matter how sorely I might be tempted. So, that is the short list, ladies and gentlemen, of places Anne does not read. The end. That's the list. Next, what kind of books do you like to read? So, this is a big question. What books do I like to read? I like to read. Here's one thing that maybe sets me apart of some booktubers, because I've never had the time to be able to commit to this. I've never done signed up for book reviewing and being on, the advanced book teams or whatever. I've never done that. So I honestly even prefer in most cases not to read brand new books. I know that's kind of weird, right? So I like to read books that have simmered for a while and are still floating to the top. Except for, there are some authors, I'll read everything that they come out with eventually at some point. But unless it's a book I've been really anxiously awaiting, like for part of a series or something, I rarely read new books. So for some of you, that might be like, okay, well, unsubscribe, or we don't need to subscribe to that one. That's fine. Everybody's different, right? So I don't really read a lot of brand spanking new books. That would be unusual for me. But that's not really answering the question per se, except to say that I generally tend to read older books. Even if it's, 3, 4, 5 years old. I don't know. I like to let books simmer a while and see if people are still buzzing about it in a couple of years, then I'll read it. But I tend not to jump on a book, a new bestseller or whatever, just because I was reading it suddenly. I like to let it percolate. Otherwise, as far as genres go, which is probably closer to what the answer we're looking for here. As far as genres go, I like to read historical fiction. I already said that. That is my number one genre that I love to read. Historical fiction, Christian or otherwise, as long as it's, relatively clean or whatever. I like to read that. I like to read certain kinds of romance novels. I'm not as much of contemporary romance, mostly historical. And I like to read, if it's just a romance novel, a couple qualifications. One, it has to be pretty clean, closed door, that kind of thing. And I prefer it if there's a little more, depth to the story. But there are times when that doesn't really matter too much. If I'm really busy and I just want something relaxing to do and I just want a fun story, as long as it's pretty clean, I like to read a nice romance novel and reasonably well written. That's another thing. I used to get a lot of, free books on Kindle or whatever. And to be honest, I got burnt a lot of times because I would start reading it and be like, no, I can't handle this choppy writing, or, sorry, I'm very judgy, choppy writing or bad grammar, or if it's written historically but has some things that are not accurate for the timeline of the time period, that sort of stuff. Picky. So I'll stop those and be like, meh. So I have some, specific things that I look for, but I don't mind just, a good casual, fun read. Brain candy, my mom called it. So I like some brain candy. I also like nonfiction, especially like Christian nonfiction. I like to read about natural health and wellness because that's of interest to me. So a wide variety of topics regarding that. And I like to read books about music and musicians and music education. I like literature. I like literary fiction, whether it's written recently or if it's a classic. I particularly love British classics written in, like the 19th century, which feels to me like the golden era of novel writing. But I'm learning to appreciate more modern novels. They're a little harder to appreciate for me personally, but I have enjoyed gaining an appreciation for them. And I don't like to read anything like too old. I do have, for example, my son for school last year read the Iliad and the Odyssey. He loved it. He's weird. I have zero interest in reading them. I feel like I should have read them, but that feeling of should is not enough to turn into will. So that's not happening. I don't like to go too far back because it just gets harder. But again, I guess I should stretch myself. So I did buy Pamela by Samuel Richardson. That's not sounding right. He lived before Austen, and he was kind of like on the outside edge of, the development of the English novel. He wrote Pamela and a couple of others. And Pamela, I remember, is an epistolary novel. And some people love it and some people hate it. And people criticize things about it. But it seems like a really important novel in the sense of the development of the novel, and so for that reason it interests me. So it's on my shelf and I plan to read it eventually. That was written in the 1700s at some point. And I've read some books by Fanny Burney, which were actually really good. She was contemporary with him, although he wrote a little bit before her. She was like he was here and she was there in the timeline of novel history. And hers were really good. And Austen read a lot of Fanny Burney. So anyway, I don't know why I just went on all that question. What kind of books do you like to read? I do not have an elevator answer to that question clearly. So you got the long essay version. I will stop now though. And the last question is, what does your book collection look like? And I will have to take a little video clip of that when I get home, I guess, because my books are not here with me right now. So I will do that, and I will tag that onto the end of this video. But in the meantime, thank you for watching my ramblings about my newbie tag. Thank you, Heather, for letting me know about this. And if you have any other questions for me, let me know in the comments before, and I will see you next time.